Discover the sinister secrets, 7 unexplained rules of the haunted farmhouse in rural Kansas. Sarah felt the weight of the farmhouse settling around her like a shroud. As she unpacked the last box, a chill rolled through the air, whispering secrets so sinister they sent shivers down her spine. She glanced outside, where the skies hung heavy with gray, as if the clouds themselves were echoes of memories long buried. Lily and Ben, her 2 young children, played in the yard, but the innocent sounds of laughter felt wrong, tainted by something indefinable. It was not the fresh start she had imagined. The neighbors' glances lingered longer than courteous. Strained smiles quickly turned to nervous nods as conversation pivoted away from questions about their new home. Something about this place felt off. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, just beyond the flickering light bulbs, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. One stormy night, while searching for a place to hide her fragile hopes, Sarah ventured into the attic. There, among decaying rafters, she found an old journal wedged under loose floorboards. The pages, yellowed and frayed, hosted a chilling list. 7 rules to survive the farmhouse. As she read, her heart raced. Never light a candle after sunset, or you will invite what has been buried. Absurd, she thought, shaking her head, setting the book aside as a mere relic of the past. Yet, over the next few days, the horrific began to unravel. Unexplainable shadows played tricks on her eyes. One evening, surrounded by the suffocating silence, she heard children's laughter. It echoed down the hall, both familiar and terrifying. Was it Lily and Ben? They were far too quiet. The thought twisted her stomach into knots. She turned to find her children standing in the doorway, their faces pale, eyes wide, sunken into pools of fear. "Mommy, there's a lady in white who wants to play with us," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. The blood drained from Sarah's face. Panic surged through her, clenching at her throat. Ben nodded, his gaze distant as he spoke to an unseen friend. "She likes to hide in the shadows." Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fear rose like acid in her throat as she cornered the neighbors, desperation clawing at her insides. Their responses chilled her to the bone, a tapestry of horror woven from fate and folklore, shared over hushed conversations. "Light a candle and she'll come for you," one man warned, eyes darting. Another whispered of the terrible past they shared with the land, victims of forces they could neither see nor fight. That night, while her children slept fitfully, Sarah felt the walls closing in. She reached for a candle, against the rules scrawled in that dusty journal. She lit it, watching it flicker to life, illuminating the corners of the room. Shadows danced, restless and hungry. Then she heard it, the voice, soft and malevolent, beckoning from the dark. A heavy presence loomed, whispering secrets meant to shatter her sanity. The flicker of the candle dimmed, revealing the ghostly visage of a woman just beyond the light. Sarah's heart thundered wildly in her chest as dread seeped into her like poison. The paralyzing question loomed. Was the true terror rooted not in the farmhouse, but in the unyielding fear lurking in the community? As her pulse raced, she faced the dark corridor of choices before her. Would she remain entrapped by horror, or uncover the malevolence festering beneath? The candle flickered violently, a heartbeat of light in the consuming darkness. Sarah's breath quickened as she leaned closer, compelled by an invisible force. The woman's translucent figure hovered at the edge of illumination, her mouth a grim line, eyes like voids, pulling Sarah into their depths. "Let them play." The whisper curled around Sarah, chilling her to the core. It felt like a warning, heavy and suffocating, yet laced with a strange allure. It was a promise wrapped in terror. Sarah stumbled back, her heart racing, warmth leaving her body as she realized the truth lurking in that gentle tone. "Mommy?" Lily's small voice broke through the thick atmosphere, fragile and naive. Sarah turned, and the candle momentarily illuminated Ben's face, twisting it into a mask of fear. Their childish innocence was a stark contrast to the nightmare brewing within the house. "Come away from there, now!" Sarah shouted, her voice hoarse, panic flooding her mind as she rushed to gather her children, her instincts screaming for them to be away from the malevolence that lurked nearby. Ben clung to Lily's arm, their wide eyes searching for reassurance in their mother's frantic movements. The woman in white's allure was palpable, tugging at the edges of their reality. As they scurried away from the room, shadows stretched and contorted around them, a living tapestry sewn from darkness and dread. The fear that enveloped Sarah twisted her thoughts, and she could almost hear the villagers' whispered warnings from that dreadful day. "Never let her play with your children." The rest of the house felt alive, steeped in a need that clawed at her sanity. Windows rattled, and the old boards creaked ominously, almost laughing at her plight. The soft laughter of the unseen children echoed again, an eerie symphony that seemed to follow them. They had disturbed something far beyond their comprehension. "Mommy, the lady just wants to be friends," Lily insisted, pulling away from Sarah's grip, faith glimmering in her innocent eyes. "Sweetheart, no."
"She isn't your friend. We need to get away," Sarah pleaded, desperation coloring her words. She felt the pull of the candle's light fading as they stepped into the hallway. Somewhere in the dark, the woman remained, and she wasn't pleased. A heavy silence fell, an unearthly hush as they reached the living room. Sarah grabbed the old journal from the table, desperate for answers, clinging to it like a lifeline. Leafing through its brittle pages, a frenzied anxiety clawed at her, knowing the next rule echoed in her head. Never follow the laughter. It leads to despair. The moment hung there, palpable and suffocating. Outside, the storm raged. Lightning painted the windows in stark relief, illuminating those shadowy corners. But then, a gut-wrenching realization struck. The laughter wasn't just from the dark beyond, it was coming from right above them. Sarah froze, dread coursing through her veins. She dared to glance up, dread pooling in her stomach. There, in the cluttered attic, movement caught her eye. The silhouette of children appeared, giggling, darting in and out of sight. They played, oblivious to the horror surrounding them. "Mom, they want us to come play!" Ben exclaimed, almost entranced. "No, don't listen!" Sarah grabbed her children, pulling them close, a cold sweat breaking across her forehead. The candle flickered dangerously, casting monstrous shadows. She couldn't let them go, not now. Time slipped through her fingers like sand, the rules spiraling out of her grasp. But the attic door creaked open further, a siren call shrouded in chaos. What awaited them in the depths above? As fear gripped her heart, Sarah looked into her children's trusting eyes, wondering just how far she would go to protect them from the darkness that whispered promises too sweet to resist. And as she made her decision, the candle flickered one final time, casting the room into an abyss of uncertainty. How much longer could they resist the allure of the shadows? The attic door creaked wider, revealing a deeper darkness that seemed to swallow light whole. Sarah pulled her children closer, her pulse pounding like a war drum. The shadows danced on the walls, a swirling mass of malevolent energy, each whisper morphing into the innocent giggles of children who thrived on unseen joy. "Mommy, we can play with them!" Ben's voice rang with excitement, oblivious to the dread scratching at Sarah's heart. His wide eyes sparkled with a naivety that chilled her deeper than the attic's cold air. "No, you must listen to me!" she shouted, terrified of the pull they felt toward that laughter. Headlines from the past flicked through her mind, stories lost, of children believed to be spirited away. "Mommy, please." Lily's small hand gently tugged at her sleeve, a touch so fragile, yet so compelling. With each heartbeat, reality slinked away, the candle in her grip threatening to extinguish. She glanced back at the attic, shadows slithering through the narrow gap, beckoning her children closer. It was... The more they heard that laughter, the more her resolve wavered. Was it just play? Or were they luring her children into a darkness she could not fathom? "Listen, we have to get out of here, now!" She dragged them toward the front door, her urgency slathered in layers of fear. But even as she stepped from the living room, the echoes of that laughter wrapped around her, pulling at the edges of her sanity. Suddenly, the distant sounds of rain drumming against the roof changed. It turned to a pattering like little feet racing above. The attic's thumping grew frenzied, a chaotic rhythm that sent every hair on her body on end. Sarah felt trapped, prey to a nightmare woven tighter by each passing moment. "Mommy, they really want us to come play." Ben was trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement, nearly vibrating with the temptation she fought to resist. "They're not who you think they are. We need to go." Sarah yanked the door open, the creaking hinge screaming as if pleading for silence. A gust of wind swept through the hallway, cold as death, knocking the candle from her hand. It clattered to the floor, its flickering flame swallowed by the dark. In the blackness, her heart raced, every instinct screaming for her to flee. But a new realization gripped her, a suffocating knowledge that she couldn't escape the house. The shadows morphed around her, creeping closer, silhouettes of children appearing in the dim space. Their laughter turned sinister, echoing off the walls, warping into shrill cackles that echoed in her mind. "Mommy, don't be scared. They want to be our friends." Lily pressed against her, innocence clashing with the dread rippling through Sarah. "Lily, no." Her words came out like a whisper. The shadows undulated, and for the first time she thought maybe Ben had a point. Maybe this time was different. "But the journal, it's all there, the warnings, the rules." Unwanted echoes of old truths. Never play with those who dwell in darkness. Suddenly, through the shadows, a hand reached out, small and pale, just a fingertip brushing against the edge of light where Sarah stood. "Come play with me." The voice melted with sweet sorrow, luring. Ben and Lily tilted their heads, entranced. The line between their innocence and despair thinned, a fragile moment teetering at the precipice of the unknown. "Stay back!" Sarah shouted, her voice trembling as she faced the wraith-like figure forming from the shadows. The air thickened, pressing against her chest as panic bubbled within. What were they truly inviting her children into? She felt her soul clawing for freedom in that encroaching darkness, begging her to run, to take them far away from the haunted embrace of those who played. But as she fought back against the pull, she could hear only one question echoing in her mind. Would she be strong enough to pull them back, or would they slip away into the laughter, lost forever in the game? The candle's light had vanished, leaving nothing but consuming shadows, and something whispered back, "Come and play, Sarah. Come join us." Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the voice spiraled through the air, a chilling echo that seemed to bounce off the walls and wrap around her like icy fingers. The figure in the shadows widened, its outline melding with the darkness, morphing into something both inviting and terrifying. She clutched her children tighter, their small bodies trembling against her. Panic surged through her. The warmth of her motherhood was fighting against a creeping dread as the childish laughter twisted into something not innocent at all. "Mommy, can we go play now?" Ben's eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and fascination, the shadows flickering in their depths. It made Sarah's heart ache. She had to break this spell. "Ben! Lily! Listen to me!" Her voice roared through the darkness, breaking through the disturbing laughter. "We need to leave now!" The attack was met with eerie silence, the laughter dimming, almost surprised at her defiance. Standing at the cusp of the hallway, she pushed the children behind her, shielding them from the unnatural allure of the shadows. "They're manipulating you. I can't let you be pulled into their game. They want to trap you. Please, I need you to trust me." But her pleas splintered in the air. The ghostly figure's features sharpened into a disturbing grin. "Trust her? Look at how afraid she is. We just want to play." The voice slinked along the walls, coiling around Sarah's heart and squeezing tightly. Lily stepped forward, entranced, her small voice barely a whisper. "But Mommy, playing is fun. We don't have to be scared." "No, Lily, come back!" In an instant, the shadows rippled and expanded. Sarah dove toward her daughter, but the darkness surged forward like a beast unleashed, a tangible wave of cold. A moment's hesitation could cost her everything. The chilling pressure accelerated against her chest. She shoved Ben to the side, grabbing hold of Lily's wrist, yanking her back just as the shadow arm reached for her. "Get back!" But in that frantic moment, the power of the shadows surged, engulfing the entire hallway, folding over itself like some sentient creature eager to devour. Ben screamed, his voice shattering the silence. Sarah felt the air snap with electricity, making her hair stand on end. "Mommy!" "I'm here. Hold on to me." Sarah pulled them both into a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of their bodies against her. Summoning every ounce of strength she had, she turned on her heel, charging back toward the front door. The darkness screamed, retreating slightly as if wounded by her determination. But when she reached the door, she recoiled in horror. It was locked. The metal handle twisted futilely in her grasp, defying all sense of hope. The house felt alive, the walls vibrating with malicious laughter, a symphony of madness challenging her sanity. "Help us play, Sarah," the children begged, with voices intertwined with the malicious echo. Then a chilling thought pierced through her panic. The journal, the warnings, the answers must be within its pages. Maybe they weren't lost, but trapped in a game designed long before she ever set foot in this house. The laughter intensified, bringing every shadow in the room alive, all of them reaching towards her, begging for submission. "You can't win the game, Sarah." The exit to safety was disappearing, consumed by a tide of darkness. With her heart hammering, she clutched Lily's hand tightly. "We have to go back, to the attic." "Mommy, please don't." But there was no other choice. She had to take the risk. As the shadows surged around her, she half-dragged Ben and Lily back towards the attic door, her heart pounding a drumbeat of terror, praying for their safety amidst the laughter. "Hold on tight!" The darkness curled, ready to envelop her, as she burst through the attic door and pulled them inside. The stale air hit her like a weight. She slammed the door shut, the echo reverberating through the suffocating quiet. But as her breath steadied, a low hum filled the room, almost like a heartbeat. She couldn't ignore it, an oppressive thrum that vibrated beneath her feet. A chill crept up her spine, and from the shrouded corners, eyes glinted back at her, waiting, watching. What if we're not alone? She whispered, the fear electrifying the atmosphere. The laughter, now muffled but still present, swirled back into her mind, drawing its web of shadows tighter. What dark truth waited deep within the attic? What game had she unwittingly stepped into that threatened to seize her children? Her spine prickled with dread, and as her gaze moved toward the far corner, she saw the journal. The pages fluttered, as if calling her to read. Then the whispering resumed, this time louder, echoing with chilling clarity. We never play alone. The moment Sarah stepped into the attic, the air thickened like syrup, encompassing them in a heavy dread. The low hum grew stronger, pulsating in rhythm with her heart, a dissonant heartbeat beneath the floor. She felt it gnawing at her sanity, and the weight of unseen eyes made her skin crawl. "Mommy, what's happening?" Ben whimpered, clutching her arm. His voice, barely a squeak, was swallowed by the oppressive hush. "Stay close," Sarah whispered fiercely, trying to sound brave. "I won't let anything happen to you." They edged further into the room, shadows stretching and twisting on the wood beams, almost like ghostly fingers beckoning them deeper. The attic was small, cluttered with old furniture and disintegrating boxes filled with forgotten memories. But it was the journal that drew her. Its battered leather cover glistened with moisture, like it was alive, dripping with dread. Sarah reached for it, but hesitated, as a cold breeze swept through the cramped space, rustling the pages. "Mommy!" Lily squeaked, her eyes wide, scanning the dark corners. I don't
like it here. We can't go back out there, sweetheart," Sarah insisted, the shadows pulsing around them with malicious intent. "We need to find out what this is." Flipping open the journal, she felt the air shift, as if the very space hungered for her discovery. The pages were filled with frantic scrawls, ink bleeding through the paper like spilled nightmares. Snippets of warnings shot out, jumping off the page. "The game has no end. Don't trust the laughter." A chill gnawed at her core. "Lily, do you hear that?" she whispered, letting the children press snug against her side. It sounds like," Ben started, but then the soft giggles echoed, creeping out from the darkness like tar on her skin. "They're coming," the whispered voices chimed together, just out of sight, weaving through the shadows like serpents. "They want to play with us." Panic surged. "No!" Sarah shouted, slamming the journal closed with a reverberating thud. "We aren't playing anything!" But the shadows quivered, and the laughter exploded, drowning out her voice. "Play or perish!" they roared, a storm of voices escalating into chaos. "Mommy, I'm scared!" Lily sobbed, her small body trembling. "Hold on," Sarah gritted her teeth, adrenaline kicking in. Each second felt like a struggle against an unseen tide. Grabbing the journal, she turned, determined to fight her way to the other side of the attic. Maybe the window? No. Desperation clawed at her as she rushed to the door, but it wouldn't budge. "Get us out! Get us out!" Ben screamed, echoing her inner turmoil. The shadows grew closer, their grasp an icy mist tightening around her. "Sarah!" a voice echoed through the cacophony, but it was different. Instead of calling her to play, it pleaded for help. "Who's there?" she shouted, spinning to find the source. Her heart thundered in her ears. From the dimmest corner, a figure emerged, flickering like a faulty bulb. It was a girl, no older than Lily, with hollow eyes and a haunting smile. "You shouldn't have come here. They want to keep you." "Help us!" Sarah cried, desperation clawing at her throat. But the girl shook her head, her smile stretching impossibly wide. "You can't escape the rules.
I couldn't, and now they want yours." The shadows hungered behind her, waiting, anticipating the breath of fear. Fingers of darkness twisted toward them, and the girl vanished, leaving only the resounding echo of her laughter. A surge of horror clawed at Sarah's chest. What rules? The shadows rippled, consuming the light, a cacophony of whispers erupting in a frenzy. "You have 3 chances. Choose wisely." Her breath came quickly now, a pounding in her skull. "What do we do?" Her voice trembled. Just then, Ben clutched her shirt and pointed at the journal, now open on the floor. The pages fluttered wildly, each turn showing more sinister warnings and sketches of smiling shadows. "Mommy, please, we need to read it." With no time to waste, Sarah dove towards the journal, fear rising like bile in her throat as the laughter crescendoed. She had to understand. What if... Her heart raced, echoed by the chilling darkness wrapping around them. What if this is how we fight back? The shadows oozed closer, sending electric chills through her veins. A new whisper slipped into the air, dry and twisting. "The game has just begun." As she held the journal tight, determination ignited. But would she discover the rules in time to save her children, or was she already too late? The moment Sarah's fingers brushed the pages of the journal, a violent rippling coursed through the air. Dark tendrils seemed to barrel towards her from all sides, grasping for her. The warmth of her children pressed against her was now a tether to an unholy force. "Mommy, please!" Ben cried, raw panic lacing every syllable. It shattered her resolve, causing her heart to hammer in her chest. "Lily, grab Ben's hand," Sarah commanded, her voice more frantic than firm. They needed to stand together. As they clutched each other, she kept her focus on the journal. Its pages fluttered wildly, animated by something far beyond the ordinary. The ink swirled, forming insidious shapes and unspeakable images. The laughter intensified, a chaotic symphony that echoed all around them. Every giggle and shriek twisted into a malicious drawl, suffocating the very air. "Choose," they intoned, the shadows writhing like serpents hungry for flesh. "Choose wisely." "Mommy, what do we do?" Ben whimpered, his eyes wide, glistening with tears. Lily squeezed Ben's hand tightly. "I want to go home." Display after display of terrified faces flitted through Sarah's mind, faces she didn't recognize. A woman screaming, a boy crying, a man frozen in horror. Their despair was a palpable weight on her soul. She needed to keep her children safe, away from this madness. "Help us," the words slipped out, barely audible against the rising cacophony. But who could help in this nightmare? 3 chances, the whispers echoed mockingly. "What will you choose?" A sheet of scribbled instructions danced under her touch, words now legible, yet haunting. The first rule: always follow the light. Blinking, she reeled backward. The light? "Mommy, look!" Ben pointed, his small finger trembling towards a flickering bulb above, a feeble glow amidst the darkness. Sarah's heart skipped. That's our way out, she thought, terror igniting her instincts. But can we trust it? The shadows roared, a torrent of vengeance crashing against the walls of her mind. "Don't trust, don't follow the light." "No," she snapped back, her voice firm. "We're going towards it." She took a step forward, dragging the kids along as the darkness hissed. Just as they neared the flickering bulb, it dimmed, casting long shadows that stretched like claws, clawing at them with ferocity. "The light fades fast," echoed the laughter, high and haunting. "Quick!" Sarah bundled the kids closer, sprinting toward the light. But the shadows lashed out, swirling around her legs, pulling her back. They were cold, so deadly. "Ben, Lily, keep moving." The children pushed forward, their little feet pounding against the attic floor, but Sarah felt no more than a freezing grip around her waist, dragging her back into the abyss. "Let them go!" she screamed, panic washing over her as if she were drowning. "Choose!" the shadows demanded, their raging voices merging into a deafening roar that threatened to swallow her whole. With all her might, Sarah kicked against the darkness. She couldn't lose them. Focus. She remembered the journal. 2 rules, she screamed, trying to recall the next ink scrawl. Find the source of laughter. Disrupt it. The laughter intensified, now an ear-piercing shriek, rattling her bones. Was it coming from the shadowy corners? The figure of the girl flashed back in her mind, the warning buried deep within her memory. The rules are traps. "Mommy!" Ben yelped, pulling her back just before the shadows could fully engulf her. "I can't hold on." "No, hold on to me." In that moment, through the chaos, for the briefest instant, she glanced at what lay before her. A weathered wood frame propped against the attic wall, flickering with a gentle glow. "The source!" she screamed, pulling from her own fear, desperation. But just as they made a dash, the shadows writhed in rebellion, their clutches tightening, grinding against her grip. "Choose your fate," Sarah the ghosts howled, laughter morphing into howls that felt decidedly like nails scraping along glass. Would the light be their salvation, or is it just another trap? "No, we are not done," Sarah roared against the hail of darkness, the weight of the journal pressing heavily in her grasp. Clenching her teeth, she realized she had to decide what they were willing to sacrifice. And with that realization, she grasped the journal tightly and shouted, "We choose the light!" But in the shadows, something darker awakened, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. What had she unleashed? Was this an end, or just another beginning? The moment Sarah shouted, the air around them pulsed as if a heartbeat had quickened. The rumbles beneath their feet grew into a feverish cacophony, each tremor threatening to consume them whole. The shadows howled, a chorus of anguished wails that scraped at the edges of her sanity. "Keep moving! Don't stop!" she yelled, gripping the journal and shoving it into her jacket, slashing through the panicked haze. She couldn't bend to the chaos, couldn't allow despair a foothold. The flickering light ahead beckoned like a distant star, but with every step it seemed to flicker and dim, struggling against the mounting darkness. Ben's small form tugged at her, pulling her toward the glimmer. "Mommy, I can't," he gasped, his breath shallow, fragile like the flame they chased. Her heart twisted into a knot, knowing that if they faltered now, it could all be over. The oppressive weight of the shadows clawed at them with icy fingers. One finally latched onto Sarah's ankle, sending her crashing to the floor. There was no time. The laughter shrilled in her ears, blurring every thought, numbing her mind. With one desperate motion, she yanked her leg free, thrusting herself toward the flickering light. "Get up! Get up!" Sarah shouted, panic surging with each passing second. Lily's face was pale as she struggled to pull her brother upright. They were inching forward, but the light ahead flickered, waning under the shadow's relentless assault. Suddenly, laughter morphed into a guttural growl, resonating from the dark corners, spiraling out like an angry beast yearning to consume them. "Choose, choose your sacrifice! Tell us what to do!" Sarah shrieked, feeling the shadows swirl hungrily, tasting her fear. A sickening dread snaked down her spine as she forced herself to crawl towards her children, willing her heart to quiet. "Mommy," Lily whimpered, shaking, "I don't want to play anymore." "No one's playing," Sarah snapped, the fear threatening to crack her voice. "We run, we don't stop." But the shadows lunged again. This time, a thick tendril snaked around Sarah's wrist, pulling her back as Ben and Lily stumbled away from her grasp. "Mommy!" they cried, voices piercing through the laughter's frenzy. "Don't let go!" "I won't!" she screamed, grounding her feelings into resolve. Desperation clawed at her throat, but the darkness pushed back, encircling her, taunting. The flickering frame suddenly throbbed with energy, growing brighter as Sarah dared to believe. "This way!" she cried, forcing herself to her feet amid the pulsing shadows. "Just a little more! Just reach the light!" The frame shimmered, revealing what looked like an old weathered mirror hanging at its center. With each step closer, the laughter ceased, turning into a quiet, suffocating whisper. The mirror cast a swirling image of her own face, horrified. Images of her children flashing behind her, terrified yet resolute. 5 seconds. Choose. A voice slithered from the dark, dripping with malice. Time hung precariously as Sarah's choices paraded in her mind. Surrender, stay, fight, trust, abandon. But surrender? No, she wouldn't abandon them. "Choose the light," she shouted, breaking the stillness. The mirror responded, glowing fiercely, as the shadows screeched in a dissonant uproar, lashes of darkness trying to drown out her voice. "Choose, choose your sacrifice," the voices mocked, wrapping around her, squeezing with a chill that froze her soul in place. As she reached for the mirror, a single thought rang clear in her frazzled mind. "What will I lose?" But before she could fully grasp the implications, blinding light exploded outward. And then, just as quickly as it began, it stopped. Where the mirror once hung, nothing remained but a hollow echo. The light faded away, and with it their voices, leaving a suffocating silence shrouded in darkness. "Mommy, where are we?" Lily's voice trembled, disquiet settling in her shy whisper. "We were just—" Sarah started, panic rising, but the oppressive dark loomed back. A low growl rumbled around them. They weren't free at all. "We shouldn't have chosen the—"
"Light!" came another disembodied echo, darker than the shadow that now encircled them. It wasn't just the darkness lurking anymore. Something else had awakened, and it wasn't pleased they had come. "Hold on," Sarah urged, heart racing, barely stifling her fear. But where would this new choice lead? What awaited them in the vast, consuming dark? As the shadows shifted, closing in, Sarah's breath trembled. Now they faced a new terror, one neither the journal nor its words could contain. What had they truly unleashed, and would they be able to face the consequences? The darkness pressed against them, thick as fog, wrapping around their limbs like a suffocating shroud. Sarah's heart raced, pounding in her ears as she strained to see beyond the oppressive haze. The low growl morphed into a sinister fluttering, tinged with malice, and it felt as if the shadows themselves were closing in, whispering secrets in a tongue long forgotten. "Mommy, I can't see," Ben whimpered, his tiny voice quivering with terror. "I know, sweetheart. Just hold on to Lily," Sarah urged, reaching out in that stifling blackness, her hand brushing against something cold and clammy. She recoiled, a chill spreading up her spine. Panic surged again. "We need light! We need to find a way out!" But as she took a step forward, the earth beneath her seemed to tremble ominously. The whisper surged, rising and falling in a terrible rhythm, echoing their fears and doubts. The laughter was gone, replaced by twisted murmurs. Taunts? Threats? It was impossible to tell. A flicker broke through the gloom, distant but promising. "That way!" Sarah shouted, voice hoarse with urgency. The glow felt fragile but alive, stirring something deep inside her, a glimmer of hope, however tenuous. With each tentative step, the ground continued to shudder. Shadows danced and twisted, disturbing the air with a rancid stench that made her stomach churn.
It was worse than she had imagined, and dread seeped into her thoughts. Was this really a chosen path, or a deeper descent into despair? "Mommy!" Lily cried, panic spilling over, clutching Ben tightly. "What if it's a trap?" "It won't be," Sarah's voice wavered, crumbling under the weight of doubt, but she pressed on, pushing them forward. The light flickered again, revealing an outstretched hand, reaching toward them through the darkness. "Come, quickly!" a voice beckoned, dripping with honeyed malice. "Don't!" Sarah shouted, pulling her children back. The voice felt familiar, yet foreign, a nightmare she couldn't shake. But the allure of safety was strong. A part of her yearned to believe it wasn't a trick. The ground shivered again, and a rumble echoed through the air, like a thunderous heartbeat. "You've awakened me," the voice purred, breaking into a sinister laugh that raised the hair on her arms. "Now you will pay." "Run!" Sarah shouted, tearing away from the light, tugging at Lily and Ben. They stumbled, struggling to keep up, as shadows lunged greedily for them, hissing in anger as they flicked their tails.
Behind, a sudden pull yanked at Sarah's leg, sending her crashing to the ground. "Mommy!" The desperate cries of her children resounded, but all she could do was claw her way forward, heart racing with every breath. "Leave them!" A disembodied voice roared from the depths. "Offer one to me." "Never!" Sarah screamed, muscles straining, fear igniting a fierce protectiveness. She couldn't surrender, not now. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted around her, the light swallowing them whole. Shapes flew past, dark forms yearning to grasp them, shrieking sounds curling her sanity like nightmarish whispers. "Mommy, where are we going?" Ben's voice almost broke. "I don't know. I just know we have to keep moving." The luminosity wobbled, and just as abruptly as it came, it faded again, plunging them into an even deeper darkness. The shadows lingered, wrapping around Sarah like cold tendrils, clutching, pulling, and trapping. All at once, a new sound arose, a low, resonant thudding, like footsteps echoing from a great distance. A rhythmic pounding that matched the pulse of something monstrous. They were not alone. "Stay close," she hissed, gripping Lily's hand tightly, dread curling around her throat. But then she felt it, a soft vibration beneath her palm, as if Lily were trembling. "Mommy, I'm scared," the girl squeaked, her voice breaking. "Me too," Sarah whispered back, feeling the walls of darkness close tighter still. The growl began again, rising to a crescendo, heavy and full with looming menace. Shadows collaborated in disarray, bending and breaking into grotesque shapes. Just as the darkness began to swirling into a tornado of despair, Sarah caught a glint, a key glimmering on a distant surface. Her chest tightened. A way out or another trap? What was the price of this choice? The thudding rose higher now, in erratic bursts, and off in the distance the flicker reappeared, a beacon in the storm of shadows. "Run!" she screamed, but the words felt just as hollow as the darkness around them. What could they trust? What awaited them in that flickering light? As they dashed toward it, uncertainty clawed at Sarah's heart. What choices would they face to survive the depths of this new nightmare? The flickering light intensified as they sprinted towards it, pulling Sarah and her children like a magnet. Shadows recoiled, seeming almost afraid. But the moment was fleeting. The ground quaked again, a violent shudder that sent them stumbling. "Mommy, I can't keep up," Ben gasped, his tiny legs faltering. "Hold on." Sarah gripped his hand tighter, adrenaline coursing through her veins. They couldn't stop. It felt like the darkness would swallow them whole if they dared to slow down. The shimmering light ahead became brighter, pulsating like a heartbeat, but Sarah could feel the heat of something dark approaching.
A low growl rumbled once more, rippling through the air like a tangible force. "What is that?" Lily whimpered, her voice trembling. "I don't know, but we have to keep moving," Sarah roared, feeling desperation clawing at her throat. Just as they neared the glow, it flickered and dimmed, almost as if it were teasing them. "Mommy!" Ben cried, panic glazing his eyes. "Stay together!" She heard the words spill from her mouth, but inside, a whirlpool of fear clouded her mind. What if that light was another trap? A shriek built in the distance, sharp and piercing, reverberating off the damp walls of the abyss. It felt alive, as if whatever lurked in the shadows was relishing their terror. Sarah could almost taste the rancid air. The fetor stung her nostrils, threatening to suffocate her resolve. Then they reached the edge of a small clearing, illuminated by a pale, sickly light emanating from what looked like an old, rusted lantern perched on a thick stump. The edges of the clearing remained cloaked in darkness, but the light beckoned, urging them to step forward. "Mommy, are we safe?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe." Sarah barely breathed out the word, uncertainty gripping her. Then she caught movement in the shadows, thick, curling tendrils that twisted like serpents. They caressed the ground, slithering towards them, hungry for warmth. "Back! Back to the darkness!" Sarah shouted, pulling her children away. But the shadows reacted instantly, rising up as if alive, moving toward the light in a slow, hungry dance. The lantern flickered ominously. Caught in the struggle between light and dark, Sarah battled the urgency in her chest. "We need to find a way out. There has to be another path." As they turned to flee, the thudding sound returned, but closer now. It was heavy, deliberate, a heartbeat of something ancient. Fear twisted tight in her gut as she felt the ground swell beneath them. "Watch out!" Ben shrieked as the earth erupted, an arm of darkness bursting through, clawing for them with elongated fingers like jagged branches. "Run!" Sarah screamed again, their escape turning frantic as the shadows lunged. They dashed into the engulfing gloom, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps as she fought against the growing dread, urging her legs to carry her faster. A shadow brushed against her shoulder, a coldness that stung like ice. Instinct kicked in, and she twisted, swinging wildly. "I won't let you take them!" she yelled, her heart pounding louder, drowning out the growls. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she saw the glimmer again, the taunting light still flickering in the distance, but this time dripping with a sinister pull. An anomalous warmth emanated from it, an inviting warmth that felt all too comforting against the chill that enveloped them. "Mommy, what if we run back?" Lily stammered, her eyes wide with fear. "Then we become part of it," Sarah replied, dread creeping into her mind. In that moment, she understood. Something wanted them there, something far worse than the darkness that pursued. They hesitated, the flickering light luring them, stirring the conflict in the pit of her stomach. "Go!" Sarah shouted, and as they ran, the shadows lashed out, attempting to snatch them back. But a different sound rose, echoing through the air, the twisted laughter of 1,000 voices, rising in triumph over the chase. "Help us!" Ben screamed, the words barely escaping his lips before they merged with the chaos. The pounding footsteps closed in, laced with urgency and hunger. Behind them, something breathed, jagged and rasping, an ancient evil that craved more than just their fear. Would the light protect them, or would it be their final trap? As they sprinted towards dark uncertainty, Sarah's pulse quickened. What would be the cost of escape? What secret lay hidden in the depths of that light? Doubt wrapped around Sarah like the heavy shroud of night. The shadows surged behind them, each echoing footfall a promise of dread. "Don't stop!" she screamed again, her voice hoarse yet resolute. They needed to outrun the monstrous pulse of darkness, the hungriness clawing at the edges of their sanity. The flickering glow from the lantern grew more inviting as they bounded forward. "Keep moving, we'll find a way." But the shadows hissed and snaked around them, taunting, clawing at their ankles like desperate hands. Ben and Lily clutched her tighter, their fingers digging into her sleeves, an anchor amidst the storm. And then it happened. The ground shook and a chill swept through Sarah's bones. In a flash, an array of spectral figures emerged from the depths. Twisted, hollow faces, their eyes vacant, their mouths twisted into sinister grins, were the echoes of what had lingered too long in mourning. Their laughter, a cacophony of malice, twisted through the air. "Mommy, they're so sad," Lily whimpered, staring wide-eyed at the insatiable crowd before them, longing and despair etched all over their ghostly features. "We need to go," Sarah shouted, dragging them along as she fought against the grip of panic. Just ahead lay the lantern, its glow bathed in unsettling warmth. What did it mean to be drawn to it when only darkness lay beneath? "Please, don't follow, we can't." But the phantom voices merged into a single haunting wail, echoing through Sarah's soul, stirring something deep within her, a realization. Light can push back the dark. Just as her voice rang crystal clear in her mind, the light flickered brighter, the very heartbeat of hope. Did it call to the shadows, luring them as much as it did her? With a steely resolve, Sarah pressed onward. "To the lantern, it's our safest bet." They bolted towards it, the beam pulsating, enchantingly alive. But the shadows howled, long and mournful as they lunged, trying to hold them back, grasping with icy fingers. The sinister whispers spiraled, clamor rising. "Join us!" "Never!" Sarah roared, using every last ounce of strength to break free, unwilling to succumb. With every ounce of her will, she could almost feel the warmth of the lantern entrenching their fear, cleansing it with light. Finally, they burst into the clearing, the lantern flaring to life, a brilliant glow cascading around them like a protective cocoon. Shadows screeched in fury, recoiling momentarily from the potency of the light. "What do we do?" Ben gasped, his breath ragged, his eyes pleading. "Stand together, we must focus on the light," Sarah urged, as the pull of the shadows became tangible, a pressing force trying to draw them into the limitless black once more. With courage firing through her veins, she turned to face the swell of darkness. "You will not take my children." The air hummed around them, tinged with magic, a ripple of resistance gathering strength in the light's embrace. "Choose," cried a voice shrouded in darkness, laughter entwined with rage. But this time Sarah understood. It was not about just surviving. It was about rejecting the shadow's will against her own. "Repeat after me," she urged her children, their small hands tightening around hers as she spoke. "We choose the light. We choose to love." And in that moment, a profound warmth poured from her heart, spilling forth a dazzling glow. "We choose the light," her children echoed, their innocent voices entwining with the very essence of hope. The shadows writhed, angry wisps snapping at them, but the light surged, enveloping them like a warm embrace, forcing darkness back, strand by strand. The phantom figures flailed, their haunting laughter turned to anguished cries. Their hollow eyes wide with disbelief, eyes that once sought to consume, now gleamed with confusion. "You cannot escape," they shrieked, their strength faltering as the illuminating power surged. And just like that, a crack of blinding brilliance radiated forth, breaking the hold of night. The lantern's light consumed the shadows until only flickering remnants remained, spiraling away like ashes in the wind.
The solid ground beneath trembled, the darkening fog lifted, revealing the sky above, painted with stars, a stark contrast against the shadows that now faded into whispers of the past. Sarah clasped Ben and Lily close, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. They stood amidst the remnants of gloom, together victorious. The echoes of laughter and torment melted into nothing more than fleeting memories. "Are we free, Mommy?" Ben asked, rubbing his eyes as he took in the night sky, freed from the shackles of fear. "Yes, yes, we are," Sarah breathed, the weight of dread lifting as they took a tentative step away from the lantern. The air was clear now, the oppressive chill vanished. Exhaustion settled in, but a whisper of peace washed over her, affirming that they had faced the gathering dark, and they had won. "We'll start anew," she whispered, "where the light always finds a way." As they turned to leave the clearing, shadows no longer whispered in desperation, but echoed with a dreadful farewell. Gone for now, hoping and waiting, but they had quenched that hunger with their love, leaving them to face life anew. And finally, Sarah and her children embraced the dawn of a new beginning, to rebuild, to grow, and to always remember, light will always triumph over darkness.
Now, before you turn away, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans know the importance of keeping the light alive.